Hi friends, I wish you all a very fine morning and we shall have the class continued about agriculture and we learned about different types of crops. We said about primitive subsistence crop, we said about commercial farming, we said about intensive subsistence crop, and we also said about plantation crops and so on. So how these crops are cultivated, what is the pattern, which crops comes first, which one comes second, which one comes third and so on. Because we said in a year some places we can even have 3 times crops in a year. So what is that pattern? How this procedure is followed? What is the order that is followed? We shall see all that in today's class. So we shall see about the cropping pattern, how this pattern is followed. You can take your textbook page number 36. So you have studied the physical diversities and plurality of cultures in India. So we already said about the different physical features of India. There are plain areas are there, hills are there, valleys are there, desert regions are there, cold places are there, hot places are there, sandy places are there. So there's a lot of variety in the physical features of India, and the soil is different from one place to another, and also the cultures of India. People living in different areas of India, they have different cultures. So there is no unity throughout India in matters of culture and physical features. But we say there is unity in diversity. Though there is a lot of cultural differences are there, still there is some fact that are binding all the Indians together. Isn't it? We study in history and so about unity in diversity, and there are also reflected in agricultural practices and cropping patterns in the country. So just like there is difference in culture, difference in physical features, and there are also differences in cropping patterns. So some places there may be 2 crops in a year, some places there may be 3 crops in a year, some places there may be only 1 crop in a year, and so on. There is different from place to place. And various types of food and fiber crops, vegetables and fruits, spices and condiments, etc., constitute some of the important crops grown in the country. So, which are some of the important crops grown in our country? You can underline in your textbook. Yeah, various types of food crops and fiber crops, then vegetables and fruits, spices and condiments. So these are the various types of vegetables or crops that are cultivated in our country. So underline it nicely and learn nicely. And India has got 3 cropping seasons. You can say we have got 3 cropping seasons. 3 types of crops we can have in a year, and each one has got a different name for that season. So first one is Rabi crops. I'm quite sure you all heard about these names. Rabi crops. Then Kharif crops. Then what is the next one? Side crops. So these are the 3 cropping seasons in our country. You can underline in your textbook. India has got 3 cropping seasons: Rabi crops, Kharif crops and side crops. So Rabi crops are sown in winter. So Rabi crops, remember, it is in winter. Rabi crops are done in winter. So it is starting from October. It is cultivated or it is starting in the month of October, and by December harvest will be done. October to December, the harvest will be done in December. So that is a winter season, isn't it? By October, winter starts in India, and these crops are also planted during this season. It starts from October, and by the end of December the harvest is done. So October, November, December, 3 months time these rabi crops will be harvested. Then now harvest will be done in April to June. So it will be planting will be done between October to December, 3 months time. The planting will be completed, and the harvest will be done within by April to June. So if it is planted in October, it will be done in April. Harvest may be done in April. So planting takes place between October to December, and harvest takes place between April to June. So by the month of June, this harvest of the rabi crops will be done. Then some of the important rabi crops are wheat, barley, peas, gram, and mustard. So these are the some of the important rabi crops that are cultivated in our country. What are they? Can underline also. Wheat. So wheat is a rabi crops, winter crops. Then rabi. Then barley, peas, gram, and mustard. These are the main rabi crops cultivated in our country. What are they? Wheat, barley, peas, gram, and mustard. Though these crops are grown in large parts of India, states from north and the northwestern parts are Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, and Uttar Pradesh are the important for the production of wheat and other rabi crops. So these crops, we can say rabi crops, it can grow in most of the parts of India. But we know some places in India they don't experience winter. Therefore these rabi crops may not grow there. So but in northern part of India or northwestern part of India or even northeastern part of India, where the winter is quite severe, there these rabi crops are growing very well. So which are the states experiencing a very strong winter? Places or states like Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh. These are the states having rabi crops mostly grown. Availability and precipitation during winter months due to the western temperate cyclones helps the success of these crops. So we know they are grown in winter, but they need little water. Without water, we know nothing can survive. So mostly they survive on this early morning dewfall is there. So with the help of that dewfall, they receive a little bit of water and they survive with that. And also when we were talking about rain, the monsoon, we heard because of the western cyclone disturbances, there used to be winter rain in northern part of India, and that rain helps these rabi crops very much. So they are longing for little water, and exactly that time due to the cyclonic effects, the water or the rainwater they get, and they are able to grow well. So that rain is very much good for these rabi crops. However, The success of the Green Revolution in Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh and parts of Rajasthan has also been an important factor in the growth of the above mentioned rabi crops. So we said earlier that when India got independence, the most important thing that government wanted to do was the development or the self-sufficient production of food grains to feed the entire population of India. And so the government introduced this green revolution. So they use new seeds, a high yielding variety of seeds. They use fertilizers, they use machines, pesticides, all that. So they use all these things, and then suddenly the production of crops went up, and that was green revolution. So this green revolution was tried in 4 states like Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. These are the 4 states where this green revolution was introduced, and it was a very big success, and therefore these rabi crops were tried there and they were able to develop very well or produce very well. And so this green revolution also became a reason for the development of rabi crops in our country. Then another type of crop is kharif crop. So the winter crops are over. Now let us see about kharif crops. The kharif crops are grown on with the onset of monsoon in different parts of the country. These are harvested in September, October. So we know when the monsoon comes to India, it starts from first week of June, and different areas in India receive rainfall, monsoon rainfall at different times. So these kharif crops are starting at the time of monsoon. So if the southern parts get the first week of June, then they start kharif crops in the month of June. The northern part may be getting the rain after 1 month. They may receive first week of July. So they will start the kharif crop in July. So the date, starting of the date depends on when do they get the monsoon rain. And the harvest is somewhat done in the month of, when do they do the harvest? September to October. So let us say June to July the planting is done, then harvest is done in September to October. So that is the format for the kharif crops. They do the planting in the month of June, July, August according to the rain they receive. Then harvest is done in September to October. Then important crops grown during this season are, so what are the crops that are grown as a kharif crops, the summer crops? So first of all, the most important thing is the paddy, then maize, then jowar, bajra and tar or arhar, then moong dal, you can buy from the shop, is not for eating. Then urad, cotton, jute, groundnut and soya bean. So these are the crops that are grown during this kharif season. So they are not grown in the winter, but they are grown in the summer season. Let's say once again, what are the crops grown in the kharif season? They are paddy, maize, jowar, bajra, tar, moong, urad, cotton, jute, groundnut and soya bean. These are the crops that are grown in the kharif season. Then some of the most important rice growing regions are Assam, West Bengal, coastal regions of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Maharashtra. particularly the Konkan coast along with Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. So the most important item that is grown during the Kharif season is cultivation of paddy or rice, and quite many states are involved in the production of rice. And which are the most important states producing rice? They are, you can underline, Assam, West Bengal, then coastal regions of Odisha, the coastal regions of Odisha near the seashore, then Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra. All these states have got coastal regions. Therefore, they get water, availability of water is there, and they cultivate. Then also the Konkan coast along Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. The Konkan coast, we said about the Konkan coast, and that is going along the states of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Then recently, paddy has become an important crop of Punjab and Haryana. So earlier they were cultivating wheat. Before Haryana and Punjab they were cultivating mostly wheat. But nowadays, the present times, these states have become important producers of rice also. And recently, paddy has also become an important crop in Punjab and Haryana. And in the states like Assam, West Bengal, Odisha, 3 crops of paddy are grown in a year. So there are some states who are able to cultivate 3 times in a year paddy. Which are those states? Like Assam, West Bengal, Odisha. These are the 3 states cultivating paddy 3 times in a year. You can underline. Which are the states cultivating 3 times paddy in a year, or 3 crops of paddy in a year? Which are the states? Assam, West Bengal and Odisha. And these are Aus, Aman and Boro. So each crop has got different names. The first batch of paddy they are planting, the first crop of paddy, that is Aus. Second cultivation of paddy will be Aman, and the third crop of paddy will be Boro. So these 3 names also remember. These 3 states cultivate 3 times rice in a year, and each cultivation has got different names. Which are the different names? Aus, Aman and Boro. Then we come to the third season, Zaid season. So we already saw these 2 major seasons, Rabi and Kharif. It is done in winter and Kharif is done in summer. So between these 2 seasons there is a little gap, maybe of 1 month or 2 months, and that time something is cultivated. That is called Zaid season. So in between the Rabi and Kharif seasons, there is a short season during the summer months known as Zaid season. And some of the crops produced during Zaid season are watermelon, muskmelon, cucumber, vegetables, fodder crops, sugarcane and so on. And sugarcane, you know, it takes such a long time for growing. So it takes almost a year to grow. So that it cannot be planted between Rabi and Kharif season, but it will go for a year and so on. So it is done just after the Rabi crops. It is done during the summer season. As soon as the Kharif crops, the harvest is over, they plant the seeds for the Zaid season. And what are the seeds they plant, or what are the crops they produce? They are crops that don't require long time for harvesting. It is a short season, maybe just 1 or 2 months. Within that time harvest should be over and Kharif season will start. So a little gap between the Rabi season and Kharif season is made use for the cultivation of certain products like Watermelon, watermelon, it doesn't take a long time. Then muskmelon, cucumber, vegetables, and fodder crops. Fodder crops means the crops that are cultivated for feeding to the animals, for giving to the animals. Then also sugarcane. Sugarcane also is planted, but it will not be harvested soon. It will go on for 1 year to get time for to get mature for harvesting and so on. So these are the three types of cropping patterns that are there in our country. Rabi crops planted in winter. Then after the Rabi crops, the side crop begins. A short cropping season is there. And before the monsoon comes, that will be harvested. And when the monsoon comes, kharif season is started. So these are the cropping patterns of our country. It all depends on the type of climate that we have, the availability of water we have, and so on. Accordingly, the season is also there. So some places where there is no severe winter, like South India and so on, we may not be able to follow it very strictly. So most of the Rabi crops may not grow there because there is so much winter. But the northern India, where the winter is severe, there Rabi crops are growing more. So that is the different type of cropping seasons, cropping pattern we are following in India. So we shall wind up for today. In the next class we shall learn about different crops. We are just studying about the season or the pattern, but in the next class we shall study about the different types of crops that are grown, like paddy, wheat, and so on. We shall study about them in detail in the coming class. So thank you for listening. Have a nice day.